Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity to deliver a talk about teaching pedagogies. You can see the title of my talk is Improving Teaching in Physics Using Scale-up Pedagogies. So let me introduce what is Scale-up. So Scale-up stands for Student-Centered Active Learning Environment with upside-down pedagogies. In a Scale-up methods, rather than predominantly listening to their lectures, students learn through problem solving, sharing ideas, giving and receiving feedbacks, and teaching each other. This method was developed by Robert Buchanan of North Carolina State University in 1995. Actually, he reconstructed the physical spaces of the classroom and transformed lecture-based curriculum to active learning curriculum that encourage instructor to rethink their teaching, but also provide students opportunities to take responsibility in their learning. Primarily, this pedagogy was invented for very large enrollment classes, but implementation of these teaching practices successfully create collaborative, interactive, actually engage learning experiences for small enrollment classroom as well. Therefore, we can say that this methodology is scalable. It's for large classroom environment as well as the small classrooms. So, what is scale up? We have now some idea about the scale up. So, scale up classroom integrated classroom designs that takes the focus of the teacher and makes learning much more student centric. The role of the instructor is to facilitate the interaction between the small group working in groups and engage in discussion, critical thinking, hands-on activities, and simulation or laboratories. The main goal of all the class activities is to reinforce the concept and materials that students already learned before the class in a setting more like a restaurant than a typical classroom. The most important feature in this learning environment is that there is no separate lab classes, and most of the lectures are also class-wide discussion. For example, when I was working at Coastal Carolina University, when I taught the physics courses in scale-up setting, where for example, in introductory physics classes, the class meets 3 times a week, and each class in 2 hours. So lab and all the activities and classwork are blended, so they are in the same place. So there is no separate time for the labs. So the environment is very important because this is upside down method pedagogy, and classroom design is also active learning environment. So classroom environment is very important factor that determines how effective that approach will be in the learning practices. So if your classroom environment is blended with social, emotional, and instructional elements, then that motivates the students to put more effort in their learning activities. Therefore, in scale-up classrooms, space are designed to discourage the lecture and encourage the interactions. So scale-up classrooms are typically arranged in tables with instructor workstation in a central location. You can see here, this is the location when I was, this is the space when I was working at Coastal Carolina University. So students are divided into the many groups, and every students have the good access and the visibility of every instructional technology, including whiteboards, computer, projector screen, and other important technologies. So you can see here the classroom environment clearly here. So all of the students, you can see here, students are busy doing their class activity in group, while instructor should be busy circulating among students group, gauging their understanding, helping students with more difficult concept, and providing the guidance on the activities. So implementation of this pedagogy is very important factor, how successful to get the better outcomes, learning outcomes from the students. So there are 3 factors. One is classroom design, second is team management, and third one is instructional modules. So for successful implementation of scale-up methods, so classroom design I discussed in previous slides, so that is very important. So let's focus on second and third. So team management, because the core of the scale up is to allow students to be in charge of their learning. Therefore, teams or the groups should be carefully designed that can facilitate the active learning and fostering the productive students team interaction. So team composition is highly critical. So instructors should take care more critical approaches while you compose the team work in the team between the students. So the third one is instructional modules, because instructional module determines the effectiveness of these approaches. Therefore, a learning module must design so that it would be beneficial to students to achieve the course objectives. So learning modules must de-emphasize the traditional lectures lab approaches and initiate group work in different activities that are tangibles, ponderables, lab, group activities, problem solving, etc. So example of some tangible activities you can see here in introductory physics courses. For example, you can display these activities. For example, find the thickness of a single page from your textbook, or you can say that find the coefficient of kinetic friction between your book and the table. Third one is most practical one. You can ask the students and work in a group, and the acceleration of upper eyelid during a blink when it just touches the lower eyelid. So I did in the classroom, and my students found acceleration of their upper eyelid when it just touches the lower eyelid is 4 times greater than the acceleration due to gravity. Then students work and learn the concept, and it's like entertaining activities. So this is very critical. So in scale-up teaching approaches, 5 principles of teachings are very important. So you have to take these 5 factors when you design your modules. So that means these 5 principles, including prior knowledge and motivations, then active engagement, social interactions, feedback and reflections, inclusive and supporting classrooms, and the scaffolding. So basically in scaffolding in education, it is basically the process of breaking lesson into manageable units, with the teacher providing decreasing level of support to students, and students grasp the new concept and master the new concept. So these are the 5 main principles using in the scale up. So at Coastal Carolina University, I use the scale up method of teaching, and here currently at Fairmont State University, I'm trying to create the scale up environment, but due to the space, I'm taking time, and I'm utilizing all of the pedagogies used in the scale up methods. So then I have some result in fall 2021 and fall 2022 in physics 1101. You can see here the number of percent of students securing grade A, B, C, D, and fail in 2 different years. So you can see here since in 2021, number of around 31% of students secure A, but in fall 2022, that number decreases to you can see around 23. But you can see in the second block, you can see here in B, you can see around 22% of students in 2021 secure B. But after implementation of the scale up kind of environment, about 43% of students secure B. That means larger number of students secure B than the 2021. Also, you can see number of students securing C also decreases by some percentage. So in 2021, the number of percentage of students securing C was around 32%. But in 2022, you can see the students securing C is decreased to 30%. In D, you can see significantly decrease number of students who secure D, but you can see in the number F, around 5% of students fail in 2021 when we did not use the scale-up approaches. But in 2022, we used the scale-up approaches. So there was 0 students who fail in physics 1101. So we are still working on that, and the final result will be on the next semester. So there are some limitations for the scale-up approaches. So scale-up requires an overall of the physical classroom spaces, and the way classes are scheduled, it is difficult for a single instructor to implement scale-up without support from a strong team in their department and institution. Physical infrastructure and instructor training can be very expensive. So that is important. So in scale-up teaching, the class must end with the reflection. Reflection is very important in the teaching methodology. So what is the most important thing you learned today? Why do you think so? What surprised you today and why? Such kind of question you have to ask at the end of the class. You can see the different sides of the United States who use the scale-up methods, from Vermont to Washington State to everywhere. You can see these locations, these universities are using the scale-up methods in physics courses. These are the references. So thank you very much. Now I'm ready to take your question.